What is up, true believers? It's Mason here with Comics and Crosses, where we discuss the eternal truths behind our modern mythology. And today I am coming to you with a review of a digital comic. Right now it is available digitally, but I believe it will be coming to print in the near future. So this is the Chronicles of Faith, David. This is actually a project that the creators reached out to me about, and we did an interview. You can find it here on my channel under the interviews tab. So this is obviously a, well, maybe not obviously if you don't know, but it's a biblical story. It is a comic book adaptation of the life of David, and issue 0, or the initial startup issue, came out, and I got a chance to read it, and I'm going to give you my thoughts here and tell you what I think is cool about it and why you should give it a try. Okay, so for those of you not familiar, the Chronicles of Faith, David is a new comic series started digitally by Brainy Pixel and Mercy Ways. So Mercy Ways is the comic book and production company of Ivan Anaya in El Salvador. And so this guy is a very good guy. I got to meet him via interview recently. And so he is just an artist. So he loves to draw ever since he was a kid. He told me about how he would pause the TV, or he'd make a recording on a VHS tape, and he'd be watching TV and he'd try to draw whatever he saw on TV as quick as he could, And so he has honed that craft, and he has been making comics in El Salvador for some time, and has joined forces with Brainy Pixel, which is actually illustration, animation, a ton of cool stuff based up here in the US. So these two have collaborated to bring the Chronicles of Faith, David, to audiences. And so this is a biblical story. And if you're going to make a biblical story, I would say this. The life of King David is a pretty good choice. So some of you, maybe if you're not as familiar with biblical text or history, the Old Testament story of King David is the one, David and Goliath. That's probably the most popular story. So this is the young boy who was chosen to be king and goes on to be considered to be the greatest king that Israel ever had. And his from his bloodline, eventually Christ was born. So pretty significant. If you've been reading Mad Cave's Knights of the Golden Sun, that whole comic series is about angels and archangels fighting with demons and trying to preserve the bloodline of King David so that Christ can be born. So kind of an interesting play around his life and his significance. But let me tell you about this comic. First, I'll touch on the artwork. So the cool thing is that Yvonne actually illustrates and writes this comic, and the artwork is very good. I like the coloring. It's very bright, almost young adult, playfulness to the characters, kind of cheeriness. They look almost kind of warm, like I could see it being a cartoon, But with that said, still the artwork is very good. It's not, I don't feel like details are skipped over, or there's a great sequence with David as a young boy in the rain and fighting to defend his sheep. More on that in a minute. And so I thought that the artwork was executed very well. So if you're a fan of good artwork, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Another thing about this is that it's a digital comic right now. So if you're looking to get a digital comic, if you're into that, I like to read them on my iPad. This could be a great choice for you, something to pick up. This comic is telling the story of King David, and it starts at the point where he's about to face off with Goliath, which is obviously a big moment in David's history or career, however you want to put it. But it, spoiler alert, it goes back to kind of tell more of his origin story, and it's interesting because you get the perspective of David being this lifelong legend and king who's had many exploits, many battles won, but it takes you back, and there's a real powerful lesson in a lot of the comic is spent showing David as a shepherd, basically living in obscurity. So he is the youngest of several brothers, and sort of has to do the jobs that the other brothers don't want to do, and he's young and spry and just kind of, you can imagine being the youngest of 8, I think it is, 8 or 9 brothers, and he tends to the sheep, but it shows him trying to take care of his sheep and facing off against a bear who wants to eat one of his sheep, and there's a lot of powerful symbolism in the whole sequence, but what's really cool is I think for anybody, this story really touches on how greatness is not just something that is or appears one day. And it's really cool because it shows David in his most kind of insignificant kind of time in his life, where nobody's watching him, where nobody knows what he's doing. And he's basically putting his heart and soul and faith and confidence into caring for these little sheep. And so I think that'll be a through line throughout, that David is not great because of this one battle or killing a giant or doing this or that, but significant because he did everything he did with his whole heart. So really cool, really neat story. I think you should give it a try. Whether you're acquainted with biblical stories or not, this story is really for everyone, and I think it's a great meditation on what greatness is. And it being a biblical story, it's great to examine greatness within the context of there being a God, with there being God, because then you have a true measure of what perfection is, and then you can really speak to what human greatness is versus it being a relative sort of thing. So that's my take. I really enjoyed it. I hope that you give it a chance. I hope that you check it out. Go to brainypixel.com to get your digital copy of this comic. And let me know what you think. If you checked it out, hit me up in the comments. If you have any questions about the biblical story of David or anything else like that, I'd love to chat about that too. So hope you all are having a great day. God bless and peace.